have to go a little bit beyond here, in somewhere in the middle. And how do you do that? And then I created this 4-dimensional system, which you will work with later. So you will get more introduced to it as you go yourself. And I found out that to create a brand, a relation brand in this new type of world, you have to have another mechanism. And the mechanism is a functional dimension, which is actually this brand mind space is a little bit like a slime, you know, the ones that kids are playing with. So you have to stretch it out all the time. You're stretching, and if you let go, it sort of becomes small again. So branding is very much about stretching the brand out so it takes a lot of space in people's minds. And that is my definition of a successful brand. It's a brand that has an oversized, actually taking oversized space in people's mind. And the functional dimension is the thing that was always there in the old type of branding also. That was the only dimension actually that the transaction brand was really interested in. Now, social dimension is very important today, of course, since we have social media and so forth. And maybe even more important is the brand's ability to communicate directly with individuals and create a special relationship between the brand and different individuals. So the new thing here is that people are thinking different and people have different interests in a brand. And you have to respect that this is happening, not trying to make it too much generalized. And purpose and meaning, obviously, is very important. I call this the spiritual dimension. It has to do with this why, this higher level, you know, where you have a perception of a higher purpose in your industry, society. It can be individual or it can be emotionally and locally, global, etc. That can be in many ways. It's not about doing the political correct things, which I will demonstrate with you. So if we look at how this brand, you stretch this, I have some little clip for each of them, so you can a little bit more see what you are going to do. Because you should take your brand then afterwards and do the same in the exercise, and we will have a little discussion afterwards. How you interpret your own brands in these 4 dimensions. So let's start the first one, and that's the functional dimension.
You can have it all. In the Nokia 6600 phone, vision becomes reality. Nokia, connecting people.
This is almost a historical film. Yet it is not very, very old, but it's old. But it is basically the same story, but in new features, new technology, but the same thing. There are these, you know, the performance of the product. And that has been the focus for a very long time in this transaction brand era, and now this is changing. So let's look at in the other end, in the sort of spiritual dimension, and I've chosen an example which is not this political correct thing with ecology and, you know, ethical and stuff like this, which has become such a modern thing. But I have chosen an example which is more personal, more individual, and it goes like this. This is all about this playing. It's very important also for adults to play, not only for children, but we all need that. Of course, if you do sports, you are playing on the sports field, etc. If you're not doing sports, you still have the need, and of course that's an interesting market also for Nike. So this is a little bit of this. So it doesn't really have to always to be this very, very politically correct things. It can be something very much more emotional. So when you're looking for this, think more about what is interesting for humankind with your product. What are you contributing with? Now, the mental dimension is about how the individual sort of gets coached or inspired or guided by the brand. And that's a very individual experience. So we all have different takes on a brand. And that's very important when you create a brand. You have to offer it like a smorgasbord, it's the Swedish word, where you can pick your own dishes, the things that you like. And this is very important that you create a brand like that, that can be, that the individuals can pick their own choice out of the menu of the brand, so to speak. And let's look at one example.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So this is the answer why a lot of us we like to be thinking different. We like to be creative, and that's why we like the brand. And now we have the social dimension, which is of course more easy to find examples of, and I chose actually it's a Swedish friend of mine who was a producer of commercials, TV commercials, and he became very big. His business went very well in the United States, and so he did this commercial, which is still funny in my opinion, and that's why I showed it to you. That's a little bit demonstrating of what the social dimension can be. When you work with a brand, most of the things that you're doing is not material for branding. Only 10% makes 90% of the brand experience. Respect for the individual we already talked about. I took this case with Zappos because branding is a lot about corporate culture,
a lot of us resisted, even myself.
And here is very hard to see, but here are the values of Zappos. And Zappos is not rocket science, they are distributing shoes. But they've created an extremely interesting culture, and the CEO is talking about that now, telling us how they actually are firing people because that they don't fulfill the values. Not because they underperform in their job, but actually because they are not following the brand, I think. And when you see other scenes from their sort of culture and how they really acted out, then you realize that the brand is today much more important for getting this feeling, this cultural feeling in a company, which of course reflects out to people in their customer contacts, etc. So, and the reason why I'm standing here actually very much is because I met IDEAN. We have one representative from IDEAN here, from your Finnish office, but in Palo Alto they have a team of some 25 people already, growing very much and very successful, very good user experience specialists. So they are creators of user experience. Why am I so interested in this? Well, it is actually the thing that connects the product and the marketing. And that has always been a kind of a fight between product people and marketing people. Now the UX is in a beautiful way putting this together, because you can't do a serious UX without being very have feeling for both of these things. And what I call the first generation of brand window was the product and the package. The second one was advertising. And actually, in my opinion, the third generation of brand window, where the brand is exposing itself, is the user experience. Because that's our contact daily, sometimes very, very frequent contact with this through the interface of these products. And it's not only products online, it's also when we buy offline products like a car, we have to go through an online process in order to buy our car. And then we have a screen in the car as well at the end. So it's very much surrounding us, all these things. And that's where the new type of brands are created very much, because to be successful in UX, you have to study people deeply. You have to interview them like anthropologists, long interviews, 2 or 3 hours, getting under their skin, listening for the weak signals, understand them very deeply. And that's where branding starts. Branding does not start with just coming up with a slogan or a trademark. It starts very much with deeply understand the customers. And that's what a lot of people, especially product people, don't realize, that it's much more happens before you actually think about your idea of what the brand should be like. In some cases here, Instagram is very interesting, but it started as a whiskey site. And in this whiskey site, they saw that almost all their users actually use the photo app. And of course, when you see something, when you see a behavior which is very consistent in a product which doesn't really have to do with photography but with whiskey, and you happen to have $500,000 on the bank still from your investors, of course, the step to actually focus to do a site where you not only take a photo but actually also communicate it, share it with people, and that's actually the story behind how Instagram became part of Facebook for $1 billion. It's very much studying and understanding what consumers and customers are doing. And Howard Schultz, when he came back to his company, which had problems, and he came back again, a little bit like Steve Jobs, he says, create relevancy in all aspects of its consumers' lives. That's what a consumer brand have to think about. So you really have to live with your customers much deeper. And this is where it goes wrong when it goes wrong. Now, I'm not going to take more of your time. Just tell that when we work, we codify it, and this is the brand code, which is the instrument where we manage the brand with. And then we put this as a third step, we put the brand code in the middle, and we go back in the 4 dimensions to create activities that is stretching out the brand in these 4 dimensions. So that's how the system works. Starting with this, what do we want to be in people's minds? And that's this exercise you should start with. If you want to continue and work with us more, we will have a special offer for you, and that's something called Brand Camp, where you for a small amount can share with some other people and work with your own brand parallel, and have a lot of fun and have a fantastic. You build your own team also, so you can come with 1 or 2 or 3 persons. So we have this as a follow-up thing for this, and that's what we do there. We also do, in addition to this, we also do actually a little a brand story exercise where you are. We have a methodology how to build a story for 1 or 2 minutes. So you're very fast, can tell your essential story about your own brand. And to end with, you have to be different. Yes, that's one of the brand's big challenges, always different. But you have to be different in a way that has a purpose and value with your stakeholders. Sleep under the bridges in Paris, you're very bohemian, but you're not really socially acceptable. So you need to be within the frameworks of social acceptance, but of course try to be as much on the edge as possible. And this is, last but not the least, to also leave you with one other idea, that the brand ideas that are extraordinary, interesting, differentiating, and very successful always comes from difference in people. It's the founders, it's the people who are working with this. They are the ones who actually contribute with this material, being different as individuals. So you have to respect yourself of being potentially very able to have something interesting to put through. And in order to honor that, I show you this last film.
Losses, no rules. Great Scotch.
Thank you very much.
All right.
A little bit more than 20 minutes.